Hello, Perth Fitness Professionals. Welcome to this live webinar on how to build multiple income streams for fitness professionals. I know a lot of you will be watching this on delay, so what I'll do is I'll just give about 60 seconds for those of you who are joining us live to jump onto the feed. Please feel free to ask any questions as we go. Talking today again about how to generate multiple income streams for fitness professionals. It is a topic that is of a lot of interest to a lot of people. So let's give people 30 seconds, guys. If you're watching this on replay, feel free to jump ahead. All right, 10 seconds, guys, and we'll kick things off. Okay, welcome to this live webinar where we are talking about generating multiple income streams for fitness professionals. This is a big trade-off. There's a big trade-off here between focus and sampling widely. The question is, when do you try lots of different ideas? When do you stick with an idea and run with that to try and take that to a financially viable and lucrative point? The way you should start by being broad. You should start by having multiple different ideas, multiple things that you are trying. Try all these different ideas, sample widely, see what is going to work best. Maybe it's just your personal training, or maybe it's online courses, or maybe it's nutrition coaching, or maybe it's selling supplements, or maybe it's a clothing brand. All these different ideas. Start broad. As soon as you start to see which ones are going to be then most effective, really capitalize and go in deep on those. As soon as you go deep on that, you've gone from broad to being a lot more narrow and focused. Once you become more narrow and focused, you systemize and automate your business to make that part of the business, that idea that you've developed, run on autopilot as much as possible. Once it does and you've automated that business and you're looking for new challenges, new income streams, then we can cycle through that process again. Go broad with your ideas and then zoom in and focus in on something a little more specific. We can summarize this as two stages. First is the exploration stage, and then is the exploitation stage. So just like an animal would explore widely to find good sources of food, and then once they've found those good sources of food, would exploit those sources of food, you're going to do exactly the same in business. You're going to have exactly the same approach. Try lots of different things, test widely, and then exploit that idea that is going to work for you financially. Now, the way that I like to think about this, and I'm going to give you some examples as we go in terms of some income streams, multiple income streams that we've generated here at Range of Motion in our business. But the way I like to think about it is you start a period of exploration by throwing a lot of ideas at the wall. Throwing a bunch of ideas at the wall, trying all of them to a decent degree, giving them all a chance, seeing what works and seeing what sticks. And at the end of the day, some ideas will still be stuck to the wall and some will have fallen off. So it's about trying these ideas, seeing what sticks and going from there. I'd like to talk to you about an idea that I had. So I was sitting in the office of a patent attorney. And basically, I had developed a concept, an idea. I would have probably been 20, for a new exercise device. And I'd gone through this whole process, all the patent documents, and this was the final meeting to sign all the documents. Now, as a 20-year-old, this was a very, very expensive process. A lot of savings went into this. And this was the latest in what was a long chain and what has continued to be a long chain of harebrained ideas and schemes that I was playing with, which I enjoy mentally because I enjoy the challenge and I enjoy the building process. But it's also a good opportunity to learn. So long story short, paid all this money. It had okay commercial success, but it never turned into that big idea that gives you complete financial freedom. But there are a lot of lessons there in that. And the biggest one is that the idea was a failure only financially. The idea was not a failure in terms of the lessons learned. the amount that I spent on that and the lessons I learned made it more than worthwhile as a financial investment, which of course is hard to see at the time, but easier to see in the long run. So I did this because I had an idea. And my advice to you guys is that's where you need to start. You need to start with an idea. And normally that's not an issue. So a lot of fitness professionals have the entrepreneurial bone in their body. So ideas are a dime a dozen. You have plenty of them. So start with the ideas. And you should have somewhere that you write down a document, somewhere that you keep all these harebrained ideas and schemes that you come up with. So you have a whole list. I've got a list of probably 30 things that I potentially would like to try one day. And I'll talk to you in a moment about how we actually will test those ideas. So you start with all of these ideas. Find the idea that excites you, that solves a problem. So that's two of the big criteria there. It has to excite you. You have to be passionate and I want to build this thing, and it has to solve a problem of your avatar, the problems that the people you help face. Or another way to look at this, it solves a problem that a past version of you had. So maybe you had a problem in the past, you create a product and experience that is going to solve that problem, or maybe you've already created that and then you are putting that onto a whole new bunch of people who have the same issue as past you had. So you're learning from your own exploration and from your own problem solving. So you have that idea. Choose the idea that you would really like to work on, and you are going to build what is called an MVP, or a minimal viable product. What does this mean? Well, the best way to understand an MVP is for me to tell you about when my wife and I were in Vegas. We were in Vegas, sitting by the pool, huge hotels, expensive buildings all around, sitting by the pool, sipping on cocktails. And I happened to look up and something strange caught my eye on one of these huge five-star hotels that was sort of looming over the pool that we were sitting next to. And the entire building rippled, almost like a pebble had been thrown into this building, like that scene from The Matrix, where the entire building ripples slightly. And I sort of looked again, and it took me a moment, but I realized that this entire building was not a building as it seemed at all, but it was a huge nylon sign that had been printed and hung down the side of this building. This huge sign hanging down the side of this building because they were doing a building works. This building had basically been gutted, and they printed this entire facade that was hanging down the side of the building here, and the inside is where they were continuing to work on this. But the building needed to look good, because if the building didn't look good, you'd get complaints from people like me sipping cocktails like I was. So there was this real fakeness to it, which of course is Vegas down to a T anyway. But the entire facade of this building wasn't real. That's what you're trying to create for your minimal viable product. You're trying to create something that your customer, that your potential customer, that your avatar can see, but there's actually nothing behind that. Behind that, it's just dust and people wearing hard hats and pouring concrete. That's the behind the scenes. We're just trying to create a beautiful, polished facade to put out there to our potential clients to basically say, hey, is this five-star hotel something you like the look of? Or in our case, is this product, this experience that I'm building, something that you would be interested in handing over your money for? So it's about you spending a short amount of time. And I always limit myself in this to 3 hours. I have 3 hours to build a basic website for a product. So just a landing page where I can capture interest from people, and a real overview of what the client would get, of what the customer would get as part of that product that I'm selling. And in that time, I also build a super basic marketing model as well. So you're creating this product, this facade. You're saying, here's what it is, here's what it includes. You haven't built any of the systems or any of the back end though. And then it looks polished, it looks great. You put that out into the world and see if there is an interest there. I do this, I have time every Tuesday where I go to a cafe and I work on creating a minimal viable product for a new idea. And over time, you start to get really good at establishing what is going to be a good idea and what potentially is not going to be a good idea in terms of these minimal viable products. And then you know which idea to work on next. I'll give you an example of one that I launched a few weeks ago to see if it worked. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But again, that allows me to narrow down the ideas that I am going to try, because no, this idea didn't work. Great. I know that other ideas in the future that look the same are probably not going to work either. sometimes it's as valuable to know what not to do as it is to know what you should do. So I had this idea that fitness professionals were not prioritizing their own health and exercise enough. They're working hard with clients and then getting exhausted and not training themselves. And also that there was a want, a desire, a need there for more education. So what I did was I created a minimal viable product that was basically online exercise programming specifically for fitness professionals. So we can go pretty deep with the language because we're talking to peers with this. So there was an online exercise program, and there was also an educational component to it where each week and for each of the workouts in that program, I'd post and film a detailed educational video talking about the science behind that. So they were able to prioritize their own exercise while at the same time learning a lot of information about how to become more valuable for their clients. I thought this was a great idea, but of course, what I think makes no difference at all. So I spent half a day building out the MVP. I was building the minimal viable product. I set up a Facebook group. I invited my fitness professionals network into that group, set up a 2-week free trial, wrote the first 6 workouts, filmed all the content, all the educational content, and built a basic landing page on the website. Just under 4 hours work in total for all that. Then I put it out into the world as a free 2-week trial. At the end of that, we had about 200 people in the trial in the group. At the end of that, I contacted all of them individually. Hey, how did you go? Any questions? We're now running this as a $25 per week paid subscription service. And we had some good interest in there, but not enough interest for me to be convinced that this was the best use of my time, because there's an opportunity cost here. Me saying yes to that idea means saying no to every other single possible idea I could have. And although it would have been financially viable, I don't believe it could be as financially viable as other ideas I have that may have a warmer reception and that may take off a little bit more. So the idea here is that I'm actually going out to try and pursue failures here. I'm trying ideas, even if I'm pretty sure they won't work, just to learn and confirm that, no, this isn't a good idea. It's not going to be a good use of my time. Rather than committing a week, a month, 6 months, a year, 10 years to an idea, and then finding out that actually this idea is not solving a problem that people have. It's not something that people are open to or willing to pay their money for. So this is basically my process. Each week, a few hours where I can build this minimal viable product and then put it out there into the world. And of course, there comes a point where you say, well, maybe if you persisted, maybe if you worked harder at that idea, maybe it would have worked. And possibly that's true. But I think you can get a pretty good gut reaction pretty early on in the piece as to whether there's enough interest for you to pursue it more. If you get 10 people saying this is a great idea, yeah, sweet. I think that's something that you can then run with, then put the effort in, then go and build out the back end, build the systems, build the automation, put that business idea on autopilot, and then you can basically just cycle through and continue to repeat that process. So how can you guys do this? Start with the ideas. Find an idea that solves a problem and that excites you. Then you go out there and you build that idea. You build that minimal viable product. Once you've built the MVP, put it out into the world, test it. If people like it, focus and go deeper on that idea. If people don't like it, then you don't build on that idea. You move on to the next one. So that minimal viable product really is a very effective way to test the market and see what's going to work and generate multiple income streams for your business. Guys, if you'd like to learn any more about what we do, rangeofmotion.net.au. You can contact me, Dan, at rangeofmotion.net.au. If you have any questions, please get in touch. You can comment wherever you see this video, or you can contact me over email or through social media. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next time.